Well, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to this time of worship on this day of Epiphany. We invite you to join us also for worship on Sunday morning at 10:30, where we will also celebrate the sacrament of Holy Communion. It has been pointed out to me that the song that is listed for Connor Barrett to play is not correct. He is playing the, what are you playing? God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. So you'll recognize the tune. Let us now open and be in a spirit of prayer together. Star of wonder and star of light, we come to you this evening to see the brightness of your light shining in our world. We, like the wise men, follow the path of brightness. We see opportunity to come together and fellowship and worship. And we do that with open hearts and open minds. Allow us to feel your presence, knowing that in this small group of people we come as faithful individuals to share in the joy of this Epiphany season and the openness that we recognize for all of God's children. Amen. The song that we're going to sing is a familiar tune, Morning Has Broken, but the words are written by a pastor who takes the modern hymns that we are used to, well, the older hymns, and turns them into modern words. So I found this hymn to be appropriate for tonight, as our theme is both Epiphany as well as Jesus and immigration. So I invite you to join me as we sing together this evening. Abraham journeyed to a new country. Sarah went with him, journeying too. Slaves down in Egypt, led Pharaoh's army. Ruth left the homeland, people she the words, "O God, I ask that you respond, please forgive us." Let us pray. We see the brightness in the sky, but we don't follow the right light. O God,
please forgive us.
we wander in the desert, hoping to find what we are looking for, but we don't always find the right path. O God,
please forgive us.
we see the people at our borders, the borders of our communities, the borders of our country, and the borders of our limits to acceptance. We do not always welcome those around us. O God,
please forgive us.
we see the Spirit guiding our hearts, and we feel the overwhelming support to make a difference in our community and in our world. But we sometimes act as if we are too busy to do so. O God,
please forgive us.
Amen. So let us now take the time to join together in Holy Communion. Let us gather together in the spirit of community. All people are welcomed at this table. Those who are from here and those who are not from here. Those who live near and those who come from far away. Those who feel God's presence fully and those who are just now beginning to recognize the Spirit. We are all welcome at this table. So let us listen to the story that on the night of betrayal and desertion and on the eve of death, Jesus gathered his disciples for the feast of Passover. And he took bread, and he broke it, and he gave it to the disciples, and he said, "Take and eat. This is my body, which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And after supper, he also took the cup. And he said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it, in remembrance of me." Let's pray. Gracious God, we ask you to bless this bread and cup and all of us with the outpouring of your Holy Spirit. Through this meal, make us the body of Christ, the church, your servant people, that we may be the light through which the darkness of the world will go away. Amen. Through the broken bread, we participate in the new life of Christ. And through the cup of blessing, we recognize the blood that was shed for us all. We invite you to make your way, starting over here, going around, and then coming up here, getting the bread from this side and the cup from over here. Wine is red, and the grape juice is in the clear yellow liquid. Come, for all things are now ready. through 22. So now, O Israel, what does the Lord require of you? Only to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to keep the commandments of the Lord your God, and his decrees that I am commanding you today for your own well-being. Although heaven and the heaven of heavens belong to the Lord your God, the earth with all that is in it, yet the Lord set his heart in love on your ancestors alone and chose you, their descendants after them out of all the peoples, as it is today. Circumcise then the foreskin of your heart, and do not be stubborn any longer. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, and great and mighty and awesome, who is not partial and takes no bribe, who executes justice for the orphan and the widow, and who loves the strangers, providing them food and clothing. You shall also love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall fear the Lord your God. Him alone you shall worship. To him you should hold fast, and by his name you shall swear. He is your praise. He is your God, who has done for you these great and awesome things that your own eyes have seen. Your ancestors went down to Egypt 70 persons, and now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars in heaven. And our gospel reading comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. I invite you to rise as you are able for the reading of the gospel. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising, and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, and by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out. And there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. This ends the gospel reading for this evening. You may be seated. Will you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you, our rock, our Redeemer. Amen. So tonight's service has two themes, really. We have the theme of Epiphany, as we have read the story about the three wise men coming to see the baby Jesus. We also have the topic of immigration. You see, the entire story of Christmas is an immigration story. The entire story of the wise men is of the actions of outsiders coming to visit the king to Joseph's hometown. Jesus' family was an immigrant family, traveling to be counted in a census. They were traveling for many days. If this family were traveling today in Israel, they would be stopped at checkpoints with military police armed with large guns, and they may or may not be let through. They would have to show their documentation just to pass from road to road and town to town. Jesus' family was an immigrant family that was told that there was no room for them. Now, we don't think about this story in the way of immigration if we say we have no room for more people. Because we remember that this story says they were sent to the stable because there was no room for them in the inn. And we smile and we nod and we say, yes, that's how the story goes. But it shouldn't have been how the story went. They were told that they were not welcome, that there was no place for them. Now, it may have just been that there was legitimately just no room for them. But think about what I just said in a different context. There was no room for them. What if they were sent out back to the stables just because of who they were? It would be sad to think about the fact that we also are turning people away. Away at the checkpoints, away at the borders. What do we think would have happened if Jesus' family were turned away at the inn completely? Where would Jesus have been born? Where would Mary and Joseph have been taken care of? Would they have to return? Could they make the trek before the baby was born or after with a newborn? The passage Matthew gives us in the story of the wise men who traveled far to see the baby boy. What if those three wise men were also turned away at a checkpoint? How would this part of our history and our story have changed if they were turned away? Would it have made a difference in our faith if the three wise men didn't follow the star and find baby Jesus wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger? Well, I believe that this answer initially is that yes, it would have changed the story. We celebrate the season of Epiphany with hymns like Go Tell It on the Mountain, and we have pastors preaching stories about our own epiphanies, following our own stars towards something wonderful and enlightening. Now, it is difficult at times to know what would Jesus do, as we used to ask that question back in the 90s with our bracelets. But if we're reading these stories about Jesus, who was roughly between 1 and 2 years old at the time that the wise men arrived, and probably wasn't actually wrapped in swaddling clothes anymore. But when we read these stories, Jesus isn't performing miracles at 2 years old. You know, we all put up our manger scenes. And we always put the wise men up there. But they really shouldn't be there yet. They shouldn't be there for about another 2 years. But we can still look at the teachings that Jesus was offering later in his ministry. So look at how his family was treated and how the wise men were treated and how they would be treated if they were walking through Israel right now. Or if they were at some of the borders trying to enter the United States. Now there's a saying that I'm going to paraphrase that states, we should build bigger tables rather than taller fences. Now there are two examples of this happening. Once was in October of 2017 when a French street artist, known simply as J.R., built a massive dining table across both sides of the U.S. and Mexico border in the small Mexican town of Tecate, and the artist painted the eyes of the dreamer on top of the bench. Get out your handout. That picture on the front, that is a table being built between and across the border, where people are eating together. On this one day, people from both sides of the fence, from 2 different countries, they sat down, they had a meal together. If you want to talk about union, that's union. There's another place along the U.S.-Mexico border where there are seesaws built between the fence posts. It was another art and architecture project done by 2 individuals named Ronald Real and Virginia San Fratello. These seesaws allowed children from both Mexico and the United States to seesaw together. These are both instances that show the ability to welcome the stranger, even if it looks a little bit different. There was one opportunity for fellowship, for communion, for dining together, and another opportunity to play together. The kids, they wanted to play. If only we could look at each other and build bigger tables and build seesaws and build ways to play together instead of kicking people or keeping people out. If we look at the Old Testament scripture that I have chosen for tonight, we see the text from Deuteronomy recognizes us as strangers. See, we are called to love the stranger and love ourselves as we also love God. We might have to ask ourselves, what does it mean to love our neighbor when we are talking about a person who is migrating to a better life? One way is looking at this text to see where it says that you are to love the stranger because you are all strangers at one time in Egypt. Now clearly, this passage is talking to the Jewish people of the time. But it can also be talking to us. Think about it this way. You see, we're all strangers. We weren't born into faith. You may have been born into a family that is faithful, or a family that considers themselves Christian. But we are all still born faithless. We are born as strangers to the world, strangers to the faith. But we are all welcomed by God. Have you ever noticed how someone reacts when they first come into our worship space if they've never been here before? Or maybe you can think about that time that you first came into the sanctuary. Now, it may have been a long time for some of you. May have been more recent for others. But you didn't know your way around. The people who walk in, they don't know what to expect. They don't know what the building looks like inside. They don't know if they will be accepted. They don't know if the rest of the people inside will look like them, will talk like them, or even want to just say hello because they are strangers. But this passage from Deuteronomy calls us to love the stranger and to love our God. We are called to welcome the stranger into our church building and into our worship space. We are called to welcome the person who stops by for a free community meal. We are to welcome the person who may or may not look like us so that If we can do that in the church, if we say, yes, we can welcome everybody, then why can't that be universal? Can we welcome an immigrant that comes to our border and is seeking safety and a new start? Can we welcome the person that comes to the door of the church and looking for a handout, even though we don't know what their story is or if they really need assistance? It doesn't matter. They're strangers in our midst, and so we're called to help them. Can we look at the people who speak a different language and are not from around here and still welcome them into our church building or into our homes, into our cities, our communities? These don't have to be difficult questions, because we are taught to love our neighbor and to give them a place. Think about the fact that Jesus did not have a place to call home when he was first born. He was unable to find a place to lay his head. As immigrants traveling across the land, his family was not welcomed. Now, I am not necessarily saying that they were not welcomed because they were migrating individuals. I believe that the situation is that there probably was just no room for them in the end, but we are called to make a space for all people. We are called to welcome the stranger, and just think if Jesus' family were turned away because of who they were. Jesus was a stranger in a foreign land, and there was leadership that were searching for him. But the wise men, the people who care about others, they come to Jesus and they welcome him as a stranger. They welcome him into this world, and we can do the same. We can welcome those strangers into our midst because, my friends, as I said before, we are all strangers. So my prayer for tonight is that you will find the courage to stand up for the other. May you find support in the child who was born as a baby and grew up to be something wonderful. May you recognize the immigrant for who they are. People who are traveling on a new road. May you be filled with the spirit of Epiphany. May we all follow the bright star and the light of Christ out into the world. Amen. Now, the final hymn for tonight is familiar, I hope, to all of you. And it's just 2 verses of the hymn I love to tell the story. Because it not only calls us to tell the story, but helps us to know that we can live the story. So let us do that and be a welcoming, loving, and joyful people of God. Let us begin singing together. I love to tell the story of unseen things above, of Jesus and his glory, of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story because to celebrate the joy that is the season of Epiphany. We recognize the lights that are burning inside of us, but also the lights that are challenging us to call us to action. O God, to celebrate this time together and to lift one another up. We know that there is pain and heartbreak in our world. We know that there are people who are struggling, individuals who are unable to care for themselves physically or mentally and financially. Give us your wisdom and power to allow us to be your hands and feet. We know that there are people who are looking for homes, those who are trying to be guided to new places and new lives because they are just not safe in their current situations. Bless those people who are looking to emigrate to places where they are welcomed, where they are loved, and where they can feel safe. Guide us, O God, and grant us your presence and your peace. Hear us now as we join together in the prayer that your Son taught us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and glory forever. Amen. I encourage you to take that handout with you and look at that picture. Put it up on your refrigerator. Maybe say a prayer when you walk by. Say a prayer that God will guide our hearts, that God will continue to guide our spirits as we look for answers to sometimes some pretty difficult questions. And may we recognize that even though we are strangers, that all are welcome in the family of God. Amen.